Hurricane Dorian was one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes on record and the strongest hurricane to have ever hit the Bahamas. Dorian hit the Bahamas on September 1, 2019 as a Category 5 hurricane, causing flooding and mass destruction on the northwest islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama. The storm pummeled Grand Bahama Islands for 48 long hours before finally moving away from the islands. According to the Inter-American Development Bank, Dorian caused about $3.4 billion in damages, which is equal to 1/4 of the Bahamas' GDP. The current death toll stands at 74 people, with 63 from Abaco and 22 from Grand Bahama, although 245 people are still missing a year later. In addition to the loss of lives, 29,500 people are homeless and/or jobless. Now, with the added crisis of COVID-19 and another hurricane season beginning, the island's recovery efforts are adapting to the new normal of 2020. When did Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas? Hurricane Dorian originated in the Atlantic Ocean in late August. It made landfall on Sunday, September 1, 2019, at Elbow Cay, on the Abaco Islands in the Bahamas. How powerful was Hurricane Dorian when it hit the Bahamas? Hurricane Dorian was the strongest hurricane on record to hit the Bahamas. Once it made landfall, it hovered over the country, sometimes moving at just 1 mile per hour for more than 48 hours. All the while, it caused storm surges and wind damage, decimating parts of the archipelago. What are the Bahamas like after Hurricane Dorian? Immediately following the storm, images from the Bahamas showed absolute devastation on Abaco and Grand Bahama Islands, where the eye of the storm made landfall. The main airport terminal on Grand Bahama was destroyed. Roads were littered with debris and downed trees, and fuel supplies were limited. Reaching the islands was incredibly difficult, even for first responders and emergency personnel. The Abaco Islands were the hardest hit, suffering 87% of the damage. More than 75% of all the homes on the island were either damaged or destroyed. The most impacted areas were primarily inhabited by vulnerable, undocumented migrant populations. In Grand Bahama, satellite data suggested that 76 to 100% of buildings in some areas had been destroyed. During the hurricane, the aquifer that feeds the more than 200 wells from which Grand Bahamians draw water was contaminated with salt water due to the high storm surge and extensive flooding. The Grand Bahama Port Authority advised residents not to use tap water to drink, wash dishes, brush teeth or prepare food until restoration efforts to flush the aquifer of salt water are complete. Today, those aquifers are still being restored. Hurricane Dorian affected about 2,500 small and medium-sized businesses in the Bahamas. On the island of Grand Bahama, 50% of Freeport businesses and all businesses on the hardest-hit east side of the island were forced to close. Many small and medium-sized businesses had no flood insurance, which caused significant damage across the islands. As Bahamians mark the first anniversary of Hurricane Dorian in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic and the start of another hurricane season, rebuilding efforts have become even more challenging. On August 1, 2020, Hurricane Isaias battered the islands, damaging roofs and knocking down trees, making that fact all too clear. How is COVID-19 affecting the Bahamas' recovery from Hurricane Dorian? Despite the global COVID-19 pandemic, recovery in the Bahamas continues as best it can. Water is a critical resource and key component of slowing the spread of the virus, and the Mercy Corps team continues to distribute nearly 15,000 gallons of water each day across Freeport, Grand Bahamas. To align with COVID-19 safety measures, we've increased the number of water distribution points in an effort to prevent people from congregating at each site. We've also completed COVID-19 training with on-site water monitors to ensure safe operating and disinfecting methods are used. We're also putting social distancing guidelines in place at water distribution sites for both workers and those receiving water. The Bahamas was starting to see signs of economic recovery pre-pandemic, but with COVID-19 all but shutting down tourism, that progress has stalled. Mercy Corps is providing emergency relief grants to micro, small and medium businesses affected by the pandemic to help get economic recovery back on track. The biggest challenge for Bahamians is the coming hurricane season. While Isaias brought more damage and heavy rains, it was just the first of what could be a series of storms that crush the islands. According to Greg Cormier, Mercy Corps' team leader for humanitarian response in the Americas, if a major hurricane hits and the virus has not been contained, the results could be catastrophic. Because of physical distancing measures, community centers typically housing those affected by a hurricane may not be usable, while food and water distributions may not be as fast as usual reaching people. Logistics and supply chains would almost certainly be further limited by hurricane damage, threatening the lives of people who need medical care and equipment to fight COVID-19, and the lives of people with injuries and health crises caused or exacerbated by a hurricane.